Hi, guys.
All right. Well, great. You're very much the guru of gore. I think it's fair to say.
I'll take that.
I think,
Thanks.
yeah, it's what you should say on your resume. You're responsible for the look of the walkers. Is it your mission to make them essentially more and more gruesome with each passing season?
Well, I started doing special effects makeup back in 1984. Day of the Dead, George Romero film was my first movie.
Quite a good movie.
So for me, it's kind of funny. I don't know what took you guys so long to catch on to the zombie thing, because I was there like 30 years ago. But I'm patient. I was good with that. So I feel for me, it's always been sort of a challenge to up the ante every season, and we're doing stuff which not a lot of people talk about. In 1978, when the original Dawn of the Dead came out, that movie couldn't play in theaters, and even in the UK was censored because of the violence. So if you think about what we're doing on Walking Dead now, we're doing things that they wouldn't even play in the theaters in the late 70s and early 80s. So we're getting a lot more opportunity. So by doing that, we're designing gags that are a bit gory, a bit outrageous, a bit horrific. And it's pretty much every single day. Like, this is the only day I have not been covered in fake blood in about 6 years. So.
Well, in the first 2 episodes of season 6, I think we've seen more walkers in one place than ever before. But I understand there is actually quite a strict audition process to be a walker. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the way that it works is you have to, if you think about this, like if any of you guys in this audience were a zombie on the show, you come to an audition room sort of like this, and we preview your look and your performance ability and your ability to take direction, because most of the time you could be in a scene where you're getting killed by Rick Grimes or by Daryl Dixon. So you have to know how to perform. You have to be able to sell if you're being beheaded or decapitated or chopped with a machete. So we go through this process, and I audition about 200 or 300 people a year, and I grade them. And then as the course of the season progresses, we use people over and over again. And the good thing about the makeup is you can change their look pretty dramatically over and over again. But in the first few episodes this season, there's this one girl named Katie that you've probably seen her like 30 times in the first 3 episodes, because she's a really good actor. We just keep changing her look up different. But we have zombie school every year.
Who would like to attend zombie school? I think that sounds amazing. Yeah. So open auditions. Ross, is it a case of the humans and the walkers? I mean, do you guys hang out, or when you have lunch, do you like eat on separate buses? How does it work?
It was the weirdest thing when I first got to set. I think the second episode was the first time I actually saw the walkers, and I'd been down there for a couple weeks, and I remember meeting my first walker at lunch, and his name was Phil, and I remember he sat down and he kind of detached his jaw and looked, hey, I'm Phil, nice to meet you. And he was the sweetest guy, but because there's so many walkers in most of the episodes, they typically have their own holding area, and they it's not separation or anything. It's just they have so much to take off to actually eat and everything. So yeah.
But I think when we first started the show, a lot of the actors who didn't want to sit with the walkers because they were kind of gross looking. Yeah. Took them a little while to, they'd sit down with a plate of food and just be like, oh, come on, I have to eat across from this. Yeah.
Well, Ross, we met Aaron, of course, in the last season, and he's been a pretty loyal ally to Rick's group and to Daryl in particular.
Right.
Where are his loyalties going to lie in season 6? Where's he going?
Well, that's the real question, I think, for Aaron and all the Alexandrians is where do your loyalties lie? Where do you put your faith and your allegiance? Because, at the end of, spoiler alert, I hope you're all caught up, but, at the end of last season, of course, we see Rick take out Portuguese Pete, and, we are really seeing a shift. Now, Deanna's lost her son, she's lost her husband within the span of really like a week and a half. So it's going to be really difficult for everyone moving forward. Where do we put our trust? Who's going to be the best leader for Alexandria? And I think some people are saying Deanna, some people are saying Morgan, and some people are saying Rick. So it's going to be interesting to see where it all lands.
And the few more spoilers, but if you're not all caught up, I don't really know what you're doing here. But in the most recent episode, we saw Alexandria come under siege from a new threat, the wolves.
Right.
I mean, what's going to be the aftermath of that attack?
Well, I think, truthfully, for Aaron, he feels a great deal of guilt because when he finds the backpack, of course, with all the photos, even though logically speaking, it's not technically entirely his fault, I think he does feel a great deal of responsibility, and he eats him alive. Not literally, but yeah, that's a poor choice of words. But it does eat him up, and he does feel like he has to make amends for that guilt. And I think for everyone moving forward, all the Alexandrians are realizing now, oh gosh, we didn't realize just how bad it was until now. Now that the danger is inside the walls, outside, as opposed to outside of it. And everyone's going to have to kind of pony up and become better fighters, and they're going to have to really work to defend the community.
It's been interesting the way that we structure the show. Every year, this is our process. Is we get together with the writers in February and they pitch out, this is what's going to happen in the first 8 episodes. And when we pitched out this season, they basically said, walkers will be a very, very critical plot line in the story. But for us, knowing that you have Alexandria as this little sort of safe haven, this little island of safety, it's important to notice that in the first episode, we get a big sense of the world. I directed the episode and we shot a lot of really big wide shots with drones and things to make sure that you could see that Alexandria was in this little oasis, basically surrounded by this dead world. And we set up the threat that this 30,000 walker horde is being led towards Alexandria. And then, of course, we go back to Alexandria and we kick in the walker threat again. So there's a lot of things that we're putting into motion. Everybody always says to me, like, man, Carol's such a badass. Carol's the most reluctant killer. I think what's fascinating about this episode, she had to drop her persona. She was playing that sort of Susie Homemaker persona for everybody in Alexandria to just kind of stay under the radar. She had to drop that in order to get to the armory to save Alexandria. So I think now people are going to be looking at her very differently. And I think it's a great character moment for her and for Aaron and for those people that stayed at Alexandria. But we have a whole other group of people that are still out on the road dealing with this walker herd. So it's pretty thrilling moments to come.
And Carol is a badass. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair description.
I know, but I always look at Carol as like, everything she does, it's very reluctantly. I mean, she does it because she has to. And if you even think about back in season 4 when she kills David and Karen, when the outbreak happens at the prison, she just does it because she's trying to protect everybody. She's not malicious. There's nothing weird about it. She's like, oh, I got to save my guy, so I'm going to blow up Terminus. It just makes sense for her.
As you do.
As you do. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there is a divide in Alexandria, and I was wondering, who do you guys personally side with? Do you think Rick is in the right? Do you think the Alexandrians are too weak and too unprepared for the threat of the outside world?
Aaron or Ross? What are you?
That's Ross.
Well, I guess as Ross, I think they're painfully underprepared, and I think Aaron's actually leaning more towards Rick as a leader too, because even though his methodology is a bit intense and a bit fierce, Deanna is lost. I mean, she's really just kind of so full of sadness right now, and she's not really leading the community at all. And I think Aaron's really realizing that community especially needs a strong leader who's going to let them know about the realities of the world and teach them how to fight.
Greg, for you, I mean, we've seen Rick grow increasingly conflicted, even more so now that Morgan is back on the scene. Where's that going to go? How's that going to play out?
Well, my impression of Rick is Rick has become Shane. In season 2, thank you. Whoever clapped, get a free autograph. No, if you really think about it, in season 2, Shane's big problem was, he said to Rick, you can't do what it takes to protect your people. And Shane was willing to do that. He just kind of went about things the wrong way. But I think it's fascinating now that Rick has basically said, listen, we're just going to take this place. If they don't like it, too bad for them. So I think that Rick is, again, going back to the comment I made earlier about this oasis. If you really think about season 1, they were on the road. Season 2, they were on the road after they left Herschel's farm. Season 3 and part of 4, they were at the prison. It's a nomadic existence, but it's not just about surviving, it's about living. And when they get to Alexandria, it's the first time that they can think about living through next week or next month. So he's going to do whatever it takes to stay there and to keep that place safe. And if that means a couple of Alexandrians get in his way, well, that's kind of too bad for them, because the episode that's coming up Monday night for you guys, it's one of my favorite episodes. Fantastic. And all the stuff that we're talking about becomes very prevalent, because we'll go back out onto the road with Rick and the people and the herd, and you're really going to start to get a sense of this exact dynamic. It's pretty fantastic.
And a dynamic I know the fans love on the show is between Aaron and Daryl, and it's such a kind of odd couple relationship almost. These two guys would have never maybe even crossed paths if it wasn't the zombie apocalypse. I mean, how do you see that relationship?
Well, I think it's funny because it's a marriage of convenience in a sense, because they bond over the fact that they've been ostracized most of their lives, for socioeconomic reasons in Daryl's case, and for sexual reasons in terms of Aaron. And both of them have bonded because they've been kind of outcasts of their respective communities even before the apocalypse started. So it's very funny, and I think both of them are desperately trying to find the goodness in others. That's why Aaron really asks Daryl to help him recruit, because he sees in him a kind of like a dog-like quality, where a dog's just going to sniff out whether someone's good or bad, And that's, I think, why they really get each other, and that trust just grows more and more and more as the season goes on. Yeah.
And as you can see from this packed room, The Walking Dead has a crazy, dedicated fan base. What was the... As someone who had seen the show already become such an enormous success, what was it like for you joining the show and then being welcomed into that world, that fan base?
Well, it's so strange, because I remember watching that first Halloween episode, 2010, twice. We watched it, my buddies and I, we were too broke to go out, so we got a few six-packs and watched that. Then I turned to my buddies and said, "You want to watch it again?" Because it was that good. It was unlike anything I'd seen on TV. So I've been a fan the entire time, and I've just been watching every single episode and as they came out. And for me, I finished season 4 about a week and a half before I got the audition for this. I didn't know I had an audition coming up, but it was kind of happenstance. And so when I got the audition, I was over the moon. Literally a week later, on my birthday last year, got the call that I booked the part. And a week after that, I was on set meeting Andy Lincoln, and he gave me a great big hug and said, "Welcome to the show." I felt like I was in a dream, It was so surreal,
And then he punched you and tried to shoot you
Did,
and
yeah,
kill you.
yeah. It was great.
Yeah, you show up on the set of The Walking Dead. Somebody doesn't put a gun in your face in the first 30 seconds. It's not The Walking Dead.
You're not doing it right.
You're not doing it right. Yeah.